Welcome to another episode of the Player 3 podcast. I am your co-host, Rick, and with me is my other co-host, and I'm not going to say the amazing Tisha because we don't have a guest today, as you probably saw from the thumbnail. But, Tish, I'm just going to ask you. I'm going to ask you the famous question that you told me from the very early days of the Player 3 podcast. How are you?
It's such a loaded question, especially if you have watched our episode on UK and American words and phrases.
I didn't say you're all right.
I know but it's still a loaded question because how are you? I'm taking you literal, and so the regular version of Tisha wants to tell you exactly how I am, but the co-host version wants to just I guess have to play the part and say I'm good. How are you?
Yeah. So, but that's the thing we're trying to find, in a way, that middle ground to that simple question that goes in, and I think that really ties in quite beautifully and unplanned, like most of our episodes actually are. I feel like we're getting a little bit more structure in our podcast. I think one of the things that we've learned after 50, nearly 60 episodes now, that we're starting to get a bit of a rhythm going on planning, maybe a bit more. Yeah, I feel like we're getting into that stage. It's as if we know what we're doing.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm never going to say that I know exactly what I'm doing because the truth of the matter is, does anybody actually know what they're doing? Everybody's just figuring it out as they go. I think knowing what you're doing is a facade.
Yeah, especially when it's something new. Going along with the flow and trying to work things out. But anyway, going into our episode.
Yeah.
So a very, very hot topic that's going around in the education sector. Specifically, I know it's in the US, is a very hot topic. And obviously it's ISTE right now. It's the, you don't say the first day of ISTE because the first day of ISTE is Saturday, right? And we're on Monday, so that'll be the third day.
Yeah, ISTE's going.
Yeah, ISTE's going. It's not and it's because Monday is the first day of the week for me. I know it's the second day for you. And then ISTE likes to just, you know what, we're going to throw a curveball in, and it's the third day of ISTE, and it's the Monday. So for all of our listeners, if you're actually at ISTE or you're listening to this after ISTE, let us know in the comments, how was it? How was it for you? So I think this one really goes into, we've seen a lot of hot takes on this. It's been going for quite a while, but this whole idea of screen time.
Well, last year, the hot topic was the cell phone policy, if you remember.
Yes, it was.
Cell phone banning policy. And now this is the hot topic for season 2, which is limited screen time.
Yep. And I think, what's your initial thoughts on screen time, Tish? Because, we've had people on before talking about screen time, talking about one-to-one devices. And we both use laptops. We both use mobile phones. We've been the generations where we've experienced technology not being dominated in every single space that is available to now be in the world where it is in every space. I remember when I was at school, we had IT lessons, and that was the only times we were on a computer. The types of mobile phones that we had were, the screen was only big enough to read a text message. You probably had the game Snake on there, and you were creating your own ringtones on it. Was like the highlight, and now you can literally do create an entire presentation on your phone. It's quite crazy how far we've actually come in such a short space of time. Going off your experience in the classroom over 20 years, you've seen the evolution of technology coming into play. You've been a technology coach as well. What's your take on technology in the classroom and this whole idea of reducing screen time now?
Well, it's so interesting because I think people believe that I'm like, yes, use technology, use it all the time. Just free for all, whatever you got out there, use it. And that's not true. I got my master's in learning technologies, which is all about the implementation of meaningful technology in the classroom, really focusing on pedagogy.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think it's really important, and I've said this multiple times, but balance is the key. Um, I think that, dare I say, I think people just like debating things and really just giving their opinion. And a lot of
Yes, yes,
times
we
giving
do.
their opinion without researching. I'm going to give an example, actually.
Ooh, okay.
Um, the other day I was on Facebook, and I don't remember what page it was. It was it was someone posting to a local group, and there was a screenshot essentially, and the comment was not being approved by admin, okay? And the admin of the Facebook page, and the guy was basically saying that schools were created in the beginning based on the Prussian model. And somebody was coming back to him saying that's not true. And I was laughing because if you remember when we wrote our book, the
It was like the
section of
highlight of
research,
my
it
whole
was your
research was the
favorite research.
Perusian
Yeah.
model.
Yeah. And so it made me laugh because I was thinking about how people like to grab hold of something, an opinion that they have, without researching it. And so I think it's fine to have an opinion, but if you're going to talk about it publicly, you need to do a little bit of research before you just like say what's good, because what's good for you and what's good for your kids may not be good for the whole. And I think that's a really important sentiment to first tell you. I also believe in meaningful technology use, and my entire career has been really focused use of technology in the classroom. So I taught technology. I taught in a computer lab. I've taught business computers. I've taught all of the things before there was even curriculum for some of those classes. And then I was a proponent of, hey, yes, let's utilize this technology in the classroom. The force of implementing technology in schools back when iPads, iPhones first come on the scene, when it was one-to-one devices, we weren't going to stop it. So you had to figure out, how do you put these pieces of technology in the hands of students and teachers and support them?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is maybe, we forget that there needs to be different levels of support with that. Um, but I think the question of should we be limiting screen time in schools is a fair question, because if we're just handing a student or a teacher a device and we're
Mm-hmm.
not giving them a goalpost or a
Yep.
bullseye for that, we are doing a disservice to that student and that teacher.
Yep.
I don't believe all screen time is created equal. I was an instructional technology specialist for 13 years, which basically means I was coaching teachers and administrators and students on using technology in a meaningful way. How do you do that? It starts with pedagogy. So if your pedagogy isn't sound, it doesn't matter what you're using. Technology wise, it's not going to be sound. You
Yep.
can't convince me otherwise. I did pre-K through 12 integration. And if I walked into a classroom and they were just watching YouTube videos free for all,
Mm.
I it told me everything I needed to know. There are ways to structure the technology use. So I think it's really important it goes back to your lesson design. It goes back to understanding pedagogy. It goes back to understanding your objectives. Now, what's interesting is, let's just say that a district is going to limit screen time and they're going to implement meaningful use of the technology that they do have. Okay.
Yep.
Those students are then going to leave the classroom and they're going to go home. So are they going to also go to a home where the screen time is limited? That's my question. back to
It's a
parents who are
very,
saying
very good
limit it,
question.
because that's a conflicting statement if you're like, I don't want my child on a device at school. I want my child to just do pen and paper, but then at home you're handing them a device because you don't want to sit with them and play with them or teach them or read to them or whatever the case is. I would ask the parents if they're going to uh continue that limit of screen time at home.
Mhm.
That would be my question. I think a lot of it, research, if you want to know more, you should research it. And I think that is what maybe some people who are really opinionated on either side are just really just listening to an echo chamber. So I always say, remove yourself from the echo chamber or the silo. Go do your own research. Like, go do your research and think through it for yourself and see where you land on it. I know you've curated some different articles and pieces of
Yes.
feedback for this
Yes.
episode, so I'm interested to know what you're sending me. I know it used to be where I would send you things, but now you're sending me
You would,
things.
and
So,
I
yeah.
because this is what I'm curious about. I think
Okay.
you tapped into a few good points there. The last one with with the parents, actually, how are you managing screen time at home? Because
Yeah.
I've this is the thing. We had and I can't remember his name, the neuroscientist that presented in front of the Senate, showing his
Mhm.
data
Oh,
of
yeah, yeah, we did talk about
Gen
that,
Z, which
remember.
we've talked about
Mhm.
it in previous conversations, and I'm still interested, and I still need to do the research of, yes, we have introduced technology over the last 15 years into schools. It's become a requirement from the Department of Education all the way down. The things like cursive writing, which we've talked about before, is
Mhm.
being replaced with technologies and this
Mhm.
kind of stuff. And schools have accommodated for what the requirements are.
Right.
Um, but when we look at, like, when I was in my mid 20s, we're talking 13 years ago, I knew 3-year-olds who knew how to use an iPad, who knew
Mhm.
how to get to YouTube and watch videos on an iPad
Mhm.
at
Mhm.
3 years old. I
Mhm.
wasn't using technology at 3 years old because it
Mhm.
wasn't that readily available. I remember uh, receipt when we had our first computer, and that was a Windows 95.
Mhm.
And yeah, I played on that a few times, did a couple of things, but it wasn't regular. And I
Mhm.
feel like this it's not just the schools that are causing the problem. It is even before they go into school. These kids are being given technology
I
way in advance. Even
I'm
at the
gonna
age of 8, they're having smartphones, and
I've said it
it goes
before.
both ways.
I've said it before. If we as parents are upset about how our children are behaving,
Mhm.
we need to hold up the mirror to ourselves. And
Yes.
I think that is part of the problem where it's difficult to do that. I'm not saying it's easy, but you've got to you have to see what's going on at home. And I can tell you
Yeah.
that because I've raised 3 kids and I have taught for a really long time, and I'm
Yep.
not anywhere near perfect, but I'm going to tell you that if you are expecting the teachers in the school district to do something, you need to be prepared to do that same thing at home. And that is what I would ask. I think the question isn't how long should students be on screens. That's
Mhm.
not the question, because you could have a really meaningful moment with technology and it be 2 minutes. I mean,
Mhm.
there could be a very meaningful learning moment with a student at home or at school, and it's just 2 minutes. I think the amount of time really isn't as important as, like, is like, how are we using it?
Yeah.
How are we using
Yeah.
it in both places? And are are those ways and how we're using it preparing our students to go out into the world and use
Yeah.
it for good? Like
Yes.
Mary Alice has been on the podcast and we've
Yeah.
talked with her, and this message has been hers forever and ever. Like, use tech for good. When you are using tech for good, you're using it in the right ways for digital citizenship. You're using it in an ethical way if you're using AI. Like when you are using it for good, that means for good. And if at any point it's not good and you're using it for something else, then you probably just need to set it down altogether. I just don't think that the job is let's go backwards.
Yes.
Like, that's
It's
not going to benefit us either. So how are we supporting a better way? How
mhm.
are we supporting students and teachers and schools? Really, everybody. Every time, we talk about this, and sometimes I'll say that and I'll think, no, I mean that for everybody. I mean it for the person who works at the city down the road, or the person who is running the coffee shop, or whoever it is, my neighbor. Like, how are we thoughtfully using technology? Because the answer is never a knee-jerk reaction. I mean, I think of, you and I have both been in physical therapy recently.
Yeah.
The joys of getting older and being active. But what's
Thank you
interesting
for
about
that.
it, you're welcome, is, you know, running more isn't going to make you a better athlete necessarily, because you've
Nope.
hurt yourself. And
Yep.
then when you hurt yourself, your doctor didn't tell you, well, don't move at all. Don't do anything. Just sit there.
Nope.
That's not what they told you. And so I think you can think about it in that same way. When I hurt my shoulder, I went to physical therapy and it hurt and I couldn't do anything with it. But they were repetitively giving me meaningful, intentional exercises to improve my movement, and
Mhm.
eventually I was able to do better, right?
Yeah.
And I think that is what it's about. I mean, doing nothing isn't going to heal my shoulder or your knee.
Nope. You're right.
Overexerting ourselves isn't going it's going to continue to injure us. We're not better athletes because of it, but we had to scale back and be intentional about what those exercises were. And I think you can say that same thing for technology.
Amazing. And on that note of
Is
the player
it?
three, no, I'm joking. No, you're completely right. It goes back to what I was saying again. We're finding a middle ground with it. We
Mhm,
went all in on technology. We saw the power of what technology could do, and it's
mhm.
essentially we went as if we were at a roulette table and went uh, all my money on. I don't
Yeah.
know what colors they're in, but I would say black 19 or whatever. It's probably red 19. I don't know. I've never been to a roulette table. I've never used a roulette table, but it's as if we just went all in on one thing,
Yeah.
expecting something, and then you also have all the technologies trying to fight for contracts and agreements and screen time and all that, which is exactly what the social media platforms have done in day-to-day life. They're all trying to entice us into using their apps and fear of missing out and all these kind of things.
Mhm,
And screen time and attention really
mhm,
became the focal point, when really, when it comes to things that we do outside of school as adults, that's our choice. If we want to be on
mhm.
social media, if we want to watch YouTube videos, if we want to use it, go on creating documents, be creative, whatever it is, that's up to us. But when it comes to the education side of things, it has to have a purpose, a
Well, let me
reason.
let me let me pose this question to you. If you see a student, if you're passing a classroom, you see a student on a device doing a worksheet that is digital, do you feel like
Yes.
that's a meaningful moment of technology use? Like, what would you say?
I would say it depends. Are they using it because they don't want to do writing? They just don't want to do writing,
I
so
mean,
they're
if it's an
being
accommodation, then that's
resistant.
one thing. But let's
No,
talk
but I'm
about,
I'm
like,
I'm saying it as a more general. They're just wanting to
so
be
I'm going to tell you.
resistant.
I'm going to tell you, if I'm a teacher in a classroom and I am
Hmm.
using a digital worksheet on my device,
Hmm.
and then the teacher next door is having their students use technology to create something and problem solve, which one do you believe is a better use of technology?
you can't just say which one's a better use of technology on that
I
face
can,
value.
yes, I can. I can
Okay,
tell
well,
you that
I'm coming
because
from the
but
outside
you're
of
the
the. I'm the
outsider. Yeah,
outsider.
yeah, yeah.
I
Okay.
can't say which way
But
that
I
would
think,
actually go.
okay, and that's a great point because you know what? You can't, but you would trust me as the educator because you know that that is my expertise and knowledge. And if
Mm-hmm.
you were to say, Tisha, I'm not really sure, from the outside it looks like this, but what do you say? I think there's also a level of trust that we need to give our teachers because they know
Mm-hmm.
what's best. Is it just compliance? Is it cognitive demand? Is it passive consumption? Is it active thinking? Like if it's passive consumption and you're just scrolling like a zombie, that's not a benefit. But if it
Yes.
is active thinking and I'm utilizing technology to help me problem solve and accommodate for myself as a neurodivergent learner, then I would say that is a good use of the technology. If I'm
Mm-hmm.
just sitting here for 8 hours a day watching TikTok videos, like no.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not
You know what I
benefiting.
mean? That's not yeah, exactly. So,
The one
um,
question though that I do have is, um, and I'm just taking this as an assumption. It is not. There is
okay.
no data that I am aware of to actually back it. Um, what about, we know that educators are very burnt out.
Mm,
They're overworked.
mhm,
When people are overworked, and I have been in that situation, it is very easy to cut corners
mhm,
and use things that will speed things up. But the problem is the value is not there the same.
mhm.
How do we identify when technology is being used in that way? Because that also then gives technology a bad rap because the educators being overworked, they're going to use technology to speed things up a little bit, cut some corners, but the quality out of it isn't actually to the standard that the teacher could produce if they weren't burnt out.
I don't know. I think you're asking two different questions because what I hear from that question and what I'm envisioning is one, the teacher should absolutely use technology if it's helping them save time. Like, I believe that if it's going to help them save time, but not always. Like, right now, I'm talking about teacher technology use. A lot of times, AI doesn't necessarily speed anything up. It might,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think it does for everything. So, I think the larger idea here is how are we going to enable and educate teachers and students both on the ability to know how to use technology, a better use of technology versus less technology.
Mm-hmm.
So it isn't so much that I'm going to go in and tell a teacher how to teach or tell them how to do their workflow. That is not on me to do that, but my goal, I'll just use this role as an instructional technology specialist to support them in that and help them learn digital literacy. I mean, we're assuming that teachers have digital literacy. I don't know that that's the
Yeah.
case. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
don't think we can assume that. I
No.
think digital literacy and confidence in literacy in general, technology literacy, AI literacy, like we can't assume that everybody knows that. A lot of the positions that were supporting that education have been removed. So
Yeah.
like your instructional coaches, your digital learning coaches, your instructional tech coaches, those departments have been downsized or completely removed. And then there's so many teachers who are in the system now who maybe did not get that. They didn't get that class like when
Mm-hmm.
they were doing, and some of them were emergency certified. So I think it is a horrible assumption to assume every teacher knows. I also think your question has two parts. It has the teacher part and then it has the student part.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're always going to have that. You're always going to have students who are cheating and cutting corners. You're always going to have certain teachers who are maybe not fully utilizing the technology that is given to them. That's just how it's going to go. But I think to move forward, it's all about support. It's all about really sitting down and having conversations, not arguments, not debates, but conversations about
Mm.
how we go from, like, we can't just take it all away and expect that to solve the problem because it's not. And I really do talk about this a lot in the parenting style because, when you're parenting, it's just like in teaching,
Yeah.
I'm going to give choices that I'm okay with. I'm not going to give all of the open wide choices. If you're in a classroom with me, I'm going to give you 3 to 5 choices that I've already pre-vetted, pre-screened, and know how to support. I know they're meaningful, so I'm confident in that.
Yeah.
That's different than you walking into my classroom and me giving you a computer and saying, go write a paper, and I've not given you any guidance on the technology, on the digital citizenship, on the, on copyright. Like, that's different. So I don't even know really. Your question was your question was a
It was a
loaded
challenge.
question, actually. Um,
Thank you.
but yeah, thank you. I think it's really important to also lean on the experts who know this, who've researched this, who've been in it. I think sometimes people outside of education, outside of the classrooms, are really quick to judge the teachers and what's happening inside. I think we do that too quickly. And I think every teacher who's a really great teacher, who's there for the reasons that they've always said they were going to be there, they will have a conversation with I mean, like, I was doing that with my parents at the high school. I didn't have
Yeah.
to teach parent technology classes every Tuesday night, once, or one Tuesday a month. I didn't have to do that. I did that on a volunteer basis because I wanted them to be educated. So I
Yes.
think teachers will have conversations, and I hope they're having conversations together. Let's move
That's the
on from your
important one.
very loaded question to some of the articles you've sent me.
You're eager to move on to these articles, but I've got one more question. No, I don't.
Oh my goodness.
No, so yeah, I found a couple of articles,
What would you like to
very
start with?
relatable to all of them.
This topic, yeah.
Well,
Oh
this
no, we
topic,
can't
and
start with
they're all
all of them.
well, they're all covering the same
Well, let's start with the one
premise.
that I saw first. And I saw this first actually on my Facebook page, I believe, or my LinkedIn, one of the two. So these are all 3 Texas districts that you've sent me, articles about Texas districts,
Yes.
specifically on screen time. And the very
Yes.
first one I saw was Richardson ISD plans less passive screen time in classrooms for 26-27. That is the first instance that I saw this happening. Now, I'm going to read the article for those of you that are listening or watching. This district is limiting the amount of screen time for different grade levels. So 1st through 4th, they're going to have no more than 20 minutes of screen time per day. 5th through 6th, no more than 30 minutes of screen time per day. 7th through 12th, no more than 20 minutes of screen time per class. So if they have 7 classes, right, you can do the math on that.
You had to give me 7. You couldn't have gone, oh, we'll say 4
We'll
or
say
3
no, because
classes.
typically in those grades, 7 through 12, you have 7 classes, sometimes
Yeah,
8.
but if you'd said 4, then I could have been like, oh, that's an hour and 20. But you went 7. Now I'm trying to work that
Sorry.
out.
So sorry.
It's just my
So
maths
sorry.
is clearly not good enough at this time. So, but anyway, continue. Yes.
So then the other thing is required minutes in specific apps has been eliminated for students. So there have been certain apps where they are required to do a certain number of minutes inside of that specific tech tool. And then programs like free time with an iPad on Fridays will no longer be offered as an incentive. So some schools were giving technology as one of the perks or rewards on a Friday or for finishing,
Which is
testing or whatever.
essentially how I know a lot of parents have done in the past, that if you be good, you'll have your iPad back. And it's like a good behavior kind of thing that's been picked. This is why I disagree with the whole idea that technology in the classroom is the root cause of all of this. It really is not, in my eyes.
Well,
that's my opinion. I'm not
no,
saying
and
it's
I
the
think
root cause. I believe, without any evidence, it is not that the classroom technology in the classroom is not
technology
the
has
root
never,
cause. I
yeah,
believe
the issue
the
is never the
technology in
technology.
the hands of kids very early on by the generations of Gen X and millennials,
So we're
because
blaming
we've
the Gen
grown.
Xers, the Zennials.
Yeah, because
I've said that
we're the ones
before.
that
Yeah.
were started having kids when technology started to become very popular.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we found that because we're so stimulated by technology, that giving a child an iPad or an iPhone is like, oh, give them that, it'll keep them quiet. These kids were growing up before they even went to school with technology. Then technology's present in schools. That it's just continuing it on, which is why I say it's
Mm-hmm.
not the root cause. I believe it is part of the cause, but not the root cause. Which is
Yeah.
why it goes back to the whole what are parents doing, and ensuring that
I
they're
agree. It needs to be
mimicking the same thing in
consistent.
the
Yes.
education sector. I do have some
100%.
questions though with this.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, I don't know if I can answer them because I don't work for Richardson ISD.
I'm just curious from your perspective of being in the classroom with technology though. First through to fourth grade, are
Hmm.
they all having the same teacher?
Typically they have the same teacher. Yeah.
Okay, because I was
Typically.
then going to
Some.
say how do they know? I'm
Yeah.
assuming it's fifth and sixth the same.
It depends on how the schools are structured. Some fifth and sixth grade students have the same teachers. Sometimes they will rotate to 3 teachers at a time. It just depends on how it's
Okay,
structured.
okay. So
Hmm.
Richardson
Hmm.
ISD might be. I'm speaking on their behalf, and I've never been there,
Well,
so it'd
listen,
be
you reach
curious to
out.
know if they.
I do have a contact at Richardson ISD. If
Oh,
you would
there we
like
go.
to
So
interview her,
we
you
can
absolutely
find that
could.
out and
We
maybe
could.
give you an update in a future
We
episode. But
could. We
basically,
could.
my first thing that
You have a
alarmed me
concern?
was, yeah, my first concern with it
Who's
was
keeping track of the time?
yes, because if I know that when I was in primary school, which was essentially elementary,
Decades ago.
thank
Sorry.
you, which is basically elementary and middle school, we always had the same teacher every time. For
Yeah, I think
well,
the
for
thing
each
about
year,
it,
we had the same
do
teacher
you want me to
through the day.
do you want me to tell you the solution?
Go on.
Well, I mean, it goes back to what I've always said. You were designing the lesson. You're designing how the lessons are going. You're designing the activities. So you
Mm-hmm.
know how much screen time you're giving them when you're sitting down to design the lesson plan or the year at a glance or whatever you're working on. So
Yes.
you are implementing that intentionally, right? So
Yes.
that's how you keep track of the time.
Makes sense. Now, the other question I have is, we're saying screen time. What do we mean by screen time?
I
This is a
would say
question I'm
that
actually curious about. Is
I would say
what does
that
screen time
that would
mean?
be well, that would be a laptop, a
Uh-huh.
desktop, an
Uh-huh.
iPad.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, those all
What about a
qualify.
smart board?
That's a question we'd have to ask our contact. I don't
I'm
know the
very
answer to
curious about that.
that.
What's the answer
Is
to a
if a
TV?
smart board is
If I
qualifying
rolled
as
in
a
a
screen.
VHS TV or a DVD player with a TV attached, does that count as screen time?
I would say it would, but I
Yeah,
don't know the
personally,
answer to
I
that.
would.
So,
Same with a smart board. So that's why I'm
yeah.
saying, would we go back to just whiteboards? But I don't know. I mean, the first time I ever got to see a smart board in school, I was in year 12.
Mhm. Mhm.
So that's how like far along
Well,
technology was for
I
me
think
when I was at
I think
school.
the thing about this, and this is just something that as educators we know this, it's really not about like, okay, let's teach let's teach technology and then let's just teach. Those are it's how are the tasks? Are we giving high level thinking tasks, right? Like critical thinking. I mean, it goes back to that lesson design. It goes back to that intentional implementation.
Hmm.
So that is that. I'm going to move on to the next article because we've been talking about this for
Sorry,
a
yes.
while.
I
I
was
know.
also
I'm going to
more
have to move us along.
curious, like, how do you get 20 minutes of screen time as well? Because 20 minutes for me goes super fast. I get nothing done.
I
But
mean,
anyway, we'll move on to the
that's
next
why you
one.
have to be really intentional with it, right? I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. Okay, so
Yeah.
then the other link that you've sent me is Keller
Yep.
ISD. All of these schools are in Texas. We did say Keller ISD parents Unite, which is what the page is called. And it just says that Keller should look at what Argyle's doing. Argyle just did something almost unheard of. They listen to parents, they listen to teachers, they listen to the research. So here's the list. Reduced over-reliance on tech devices, increased paper and pencil learning, expanded hands-on instruction, increased writing and critical thinking, limited take-home of Chromebooks, eliminated technology-based homework through the 8th grade, refocused classrooms on face-to-face learning and authentic instruction, disabled YouTube district-wide, disabled Wikipedia district-wide, increased monitoring of student technology use, reduced one-to-one device expectations in grades 6 through 8, increased emphasis on discussion-based and collaborative learning, re-centered instruction around teachers instead of screens. This post says, quote, "This is not going backwards. This is correcting course. For years, parents were raising concerns about ed tech. They were dismissed as outdated, anti-technology, or resistant to change. But meanwhile, reading scores dropped, attention spans collapsed, classroom distractions skyrocketed, and students became increasingly dependent on screens for basic learning tasks." This post says Argyle ISD, which is in Texas, didn't just acknowledge the problem, they acted. This is innovation. This is courage. This is what putting kids before convenience actually looks like. So there is a picture attached to this article.
Yep.
And I'm going to try to zoom in here on this because, as I'm getting older,
the eyesight's set. That's why you wore your glasses for this episode, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so ARIA ISD, student learning goal, instructional alignment across subjects, grade levels, and campuses. Now, that isn't alarming to me. That would be something that I would expect to see even when I started teaching in the dinosaur ages, as Jace would say. So the one square says pen and pencil to paper, instructional materials, workbooks, ELA workbooks, math workbooks, science workbooks, social study. I know you're having PTSD with this. Paper copies of social studies weekly. Don't panic. I don't want you to get riled up on this yet.
I'm chilled.
Grade 5 social studies. And then it says hands-on learning, expanded science consumable and non-consumable lab materials, grades 5. It's such tiny print. Their curriculum is with hands-on engage activities. And then pen and pencil to paper. As part of the work, students will experience increased use of high-quality instructional materials and paper-based learning. So this says updated K-8 writing plan, handwritten. I know, just chill for a minute and let me finish what I was saying.
I'm following along, and you're literally.
I know you are, but I can read your mind. I already know what's coming, but so I want to just finish this for our viewers and listeners. Increased emphasis on handwriting and a new handwriting program in grades pre-K through first. Implementation of depth complexity in grades 7 through 8, and then increased focus on academic discourse and classroom discussion. And then this print is so tiny. Continued teacher internalization of curriculum and instructional planning. Okay, so I got through that. Just stick with me for a minute. Let me zoom in a little bit more. I think it's zooming in on the wrong thing. Every time I hit zoom in, it's zooming in on the actual post, not the bits. Okay, so technology as a tool, not a substitute. This is a 5-year collaborative vision. So currently in progress for spring, disabled YouTube and Wikipedia, just like I said, develop processes for reporting inappropriate websites. That's interesting. I had that whenever we had a whole process for reporting inappropriate websites. Okay. Continued conversations with parents, teachers, and administrators. Scheduled August professional development for teachers with depth and complexity in artificial intelligence. That's good. Monitoring of student technology use using multiple data sources. Continued access and use of GoGuardian. You know about GoGuardian, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Then you've got beginning this fall. So that was all the spring. Now beginning this fall, no take-home Chromebooks for students until they are in 9th grade. Chromebook carts in grade 6 through 8. So the cows, remember we've talked about the cows computer on wheels. So the carts,
Yes.
they're not checking them out one-to-one. No technology-based homework for students until 9th grade. Additional reductions in district expectations for screen time. And increased emphasis on face-to-face collaboration, writing critical thinking, and authentic learning experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
That
do
was a
you
lot.
want to? It's a lot. They have, and the interesting thing about this is multiple people have been sharing this Argyle ISD plan, right? And then
Yes.
this one, you sent me a post that has Richardson and Argyle together, and it
Mm-hmm.
just is kind of telling the differences of what's going on. So I
Yeah.
thought it would be interesting to talk about the comments. I know you have opinions about the handwriting. We've gone over that
No,
in
I
other
think
episodes.
I believe that the handwriting is useful. It's needed. I
Mhm,
do agree with
mhm,
it. Being someone who's dyslexic and is very slow at writing, it is a struggle. It does make it harder, but I would say that it's important to definitely have, especially for the younger ages.
mhm. And also you have to think about it, you would have accommodations. There would be accommodations,
There would
right?
be
It isn't like
accommodations, yeah, but
mhm,
as long as I'm being also told you need to write this, you need to use pen and paper, not
yeah,
typing on a keyboard, then I'm not becoming dependent on a keyboard. I'm actually learning
yeah,
what I need to do. It's like the whole idea of get kids to learn how to ride a bike, get kids to learn how to swim, all these basic
mhm.
things in life
So,
that benefit them. Pen on
here's a
paper is
comment.
also powerful.
Here's a comment, and it's funny because we've already talked. Just wondering if parents are going to limit screen time at home. That's
Yep,
where the real problem lies.
I
And
completely 100%. I want to
it's
go
the
and
same thing
hug
with
this person,
behavior.
whoever
It's the
said
same
it.
thing with behavior. If teachers are having problems in the classroom with behavior, I
Hmm.
guarantee you that the majority of those problems were not rooted in the
Yeah, they're not rooted in the
classroom.
classroom, but I feel like the classroom gets the stick for it all.
They do, they do. Let's see what else. I'm just kind of looking through. Are you seeing any comments that really stand out to you?
I've got one here that says great info.
Mhm, mhm. This one
Uh,
is interesting. Very smart and other districts should follow. I'd love to know how they get it done with all the online testing, pre-test, post-test, and that's just for STAR, which is it's a Texas
yeah, yeah,
assessment.
yeah.
Isn't that interesting? And then you have online diagnostics. So think about all of the things that have gone online since it's when you start thinking about that, it's interesting because if it's all online, then what? Are they now going backwards and they're gonna do all the testing pen and paper again? And do those testing bits
Mm.
qualify as the 20 minutes?
Ooh, that's a very, very good question. What if I end up having to take
And then
an
and then
hour to do a test? I'm only given 20 minutes of screen time.
and then also, okay, stick with me
There has to
here.
be a
If
reason for it.
if I'm meant to teach students how to use screens intentionally for good, but they can never be on them, how do I teach them how to do that?
Yeah, it's true.
I'm just asking. If you said to me, Tisha, I want you to teach digital citizenship to all of these students, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to do my very best to do that, but I do need them to actively be using a device, probably to do some of the
Mm-hmm.
engaging activities that I want them to
Yeah.
do to teach them. But
Well,
they've
surely
spent their
yeah. I mean, if you're
their
wanting to do
allotted time.
the digital citizenship, I mean, they stated that for the older
Hmm.
grades, they would get more time, but it's only 20 minutes per class,
Okay, but
which is again why I'm like, is that enough time for certain things? Some stuff, as you said, as long as the lesson plan is actually done correctly and efficiently, then yeah, that's going to be absolutely plenty of time. But when you're saying like the digital citizenship, what?
There's a comment I'm going to read to you in a second, but
Okay.
I think you're right. I think you're right about what you're saying. I do want to challenge this a little bit because I know this just from my child development classes. You know, if you're going to learn a new language,
Mm-hmm.
there is an age range that you should be learning that language because you're going to be more apt to remember it. And it's going to be the younger
Yes.
that you are. And if
Yes.
I try to learn a language, say in 9th grade, and that's the first time I've been exposed to, it's probably going to be more difficult. Wouldn't that same concept apply? Or do you think it's too late to teach them screen time? I don't know. It's just really interesting.
No,
You don't have to answer that.
yeah, personally, I believe that screen time efficiency can be taught a little bit later because, like, I didn't get to use a computer in school until I was in year 6 or grade 6 when I was in school, and that I found that was beneficial. And we had 1 hour a week where we'd have IT or informational technology, where we'd learn about the amazing things of PowerPoint and Word. But definitely having those later on, learn the basics. It's like what we've always taught. You're not going to just say, I'm going to learn how to swim. To do that, I'm going to jump off a cliff in a stormy sea and try and learn how to swim in that moment. No, you're going to do it in a safe environment, in a swimming pool, where there's lifeguards, where there's instructors who are actually teaching you, or parents who are teaching you how to swim, and they're holding you and guiding you through doing the strokes with your arms and your legs so that you can swim, or staying afloat, learning all about these things. That
Okay.
needs to be taught, and that's what the handwriting and everything, in my eyes, the critical thinking helps. And as they've said, the technology can be introduced as a tool, and you're eager to talk about these comments, aren't you?
I just this one is like technology isn't the problem. Teachers aren't savvy enough to optimize it. What? I'm telling you, it goes back to what you said. It's like the teachers take the brunt of some of this.
Absolutely, they do.
The rest of the comment says it connects the class together, makes lessons more interactive. And data and feedback is almost instant. So that is actually interesting because, yeah, it makes feedback a lot more, like it makes it really quick. Let me see. This one says schools should be preparing students for the future, not taking them back to the past. SAT tests and college applications are all online. Colleges use online textbooks, and most assignments are submitted electronically. AI will bring computer technology into so many aspects of the lives of these young people. An AI boss recently said, "You won't lose your job to AI. You'll lose your job to someone who uses AI because it's going to change the human experience. And we need to prepare our kids for a future where they interact with electronics in virtually every aspect of life." Interesting. Um, these comments are fun. It's so interesting kind of reading through the comments from everyone. And then you also sent me, well, there's the Argyle ISD article. It got a ton of comments, and it says that there are 95% positive comments on the Argyle ISD. We'll link that. You'll link that for the people listening and watching, right? So
Yeah.
that they can see that. Um, I don't know. That's where we're at. It's really interesting that last year we were talking about banned cell phones, and here we are at limited screen time. What do you think next year? What is your prediction for next year?
Oh crikey! If we're going to go down that road, I mean, it's probably going to be the route of like limited cars can drive through the school, so therefore 90% of students must walk with their parents to the school. We need to get exercising more often and not relying on
I mean,
four wheels to get us to school.
I do agree with the walking.
I'm trying to find a random thing that's going to be brought up.
You know what I think it's going to be? I think it's going to be the scripted curriculum. That was something that one of the comments said. I think it's really interesting, and it feels like people are wanting to kind of go back to what feels maybe, I don't want to say retro, but they want to go back to what feels comfortable. Maybe it's, I don't know. I'm just so fascinated because I also agreed with that comment.
What is back to script?
Scripted curriculum. Do you know about scripted curriculum?
I'm not familiar with that.
Well, we researched that for our book, where they will tell you exactly what you're teaching.
Thanks for throwing me under the bus there. We researched it for the book. How do you not know?
Well, you've probably forgotten. You've forgotten.
It was a year ago we launched the book, and I'm trying to remember. Just refresh my memory. What is...
So we didn't call it scripted curriculum. Essentially, it's where
now you tell me, like it's like
you're
telling
not
me,
letting
oh, do you
me.
not remember about this thing that we researched? Oh, by the way, I'm actually calling it something else today. So
Sorry,
that's why I'm
I
thrown
was
off.
using the language of the comment, but essentially, it's where the state or school is telling you what to teach when you're teaching it, and basically what you're saying. So like, there's really less autonomy for the teacher, and it's guided, right? So
Right. Okay. Yes. Now I
okay,
now
now
yes,
you
yes. Now
understand.
I understand where you're coming from. I completely agree with that because I like how I do like the approach of we need to teach students about these things, but the problem that I see is the curriculum standards on a national level got changed so drastically without understanding the ramifications of it that now they're having to backtrack on it. And
Mhm.
I completely agree with that they do need to go back. I do believe that they also need to allow teachers a bit more freedom on how they actually teach them.
Well, some people wouldn't agree with you on that. They would say that teachers are indoctrinating their students. There's lots of ways that this could
Yes,
go.
I
It's going to
agree.
be really
I
interesting.
agree with I agree with that they're that teachers are
You
indoctrinating
agree
our
with
students.
that?
No, 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 no.
No,
I'm not saying I'm not
you're
meaning that I
gonna have to
agree that they
backtrack
are.
this. Yeah.
Ah, that's gone really bad.
That went really bad.
My
That was
dyslexia is really shining today.
let's backtrack and like re-say what you
Re-say
mean.
what I do not agree that teachers are doctrinating students, but I agree
That will be
that
the thing.
teachers should be able to
Mm.
teach a particular thing in
Well,
a
they're
way that
experts in it.
they
They're experts in it. Some of them
believe
have
is going to
gotten their
help them of all the
yes.
different types. That's what I was meaning. So I
Think
do
about it.
not believe that they are doctrinating
Indoctrinated.
students.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Indoctrinate. Well, yeah.
Yes, there are some teachers leaving. I saw this. It was a professor, maybe not a professor, but she had her doctorate in like British literature or whatever, and she
The proper
can't
literature.
she can't teach what she is an expert in because it's too scripted, I guess. So she was leaving. And
Mm,
that is sad because she's the expert in that particular topic. So I don't
yeah.
know. This has become a very long, heavy episode, and I feel like we should wrap things up now because
Yep.
you're getting tired and accidentally saying the wrong thing.
Yes, and that is not a good move. That is really not a good move. My brain is starting to get very overwhelmed with all this information, and trying to keep myself on track clearly is not working. But yeah, I think it was a very interesting topic, a
It
very
is.
deep one that has a lot of
Mhm.
moving parts, and there's a lot of challenges across the board, really, for anyone. The biggest thing we have to really look at is we are trying to make the best environments for the next generations of learners. And the one thing we can't be doing is being at each other's throats on
Mm.
who's to fault.
Who's right?
Because
Who's wrong? Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it's not the right way to do it, and we have to just look at things as what do we want to do? And I think we've said it that we want to reduce screen time, but it has to be across the board,
We want it to
in
be
and outside.
intentional
And
use inside
and
inside
yes,
and outside of the
yeah, the
classroom.
technology that is used is intentional rather than being
Yep.
just doom scrolling on anything.
Yep.
Amazing. Well,
Thanks, Rick.
thank you,
Thanks, Rick, for
Tish.
that
You're very
all those
welcome.
articles. I'm like, some episodes make me so
Yeah,
tired. This is one of
I'm
those.
ready to
This
go
is
to
a
bed.
lot
I
of
mean,
info.
for me, I'm pretty much near enough ready to go to bed. For you, it's like, oh, it's now middle of the afternoon, and I'm going to bed as well. Um,
Yes.
but yeah, all the articles, links, and everything will be included in the description below. So if you want to go check those out, please do your own research on these things. We highly recommend it, so
Yeah.
that you can get a bigger picture of everything. And if you've made it this far and you've enjoyed this episode, please give it a thumbs up, follow, subscribe wherever you are listening to so you don't miss a future episode. And until next week, we'll see you then. Bye for now.
Bye.